Locha and welcome to Conversations with Miss A. My name is Asri Marindiri and I'm the host. So in today's episode, because this is our first episode, our first conversation, I thought let's get to know Asri. You know, who's Asri? Where is she from? And why conversations? Well, I was born Asriano Marindiri. I grew up in Mredane. It's a small village in Thoyando. I was born to my mom, my dad, and my 5 siblings. So growing up was quite fun. I had the privilege of being the youngest sister in the house, which pretty much meant that I was spoiled, right? So I started primary school at Mredane Lower Primary School. I then progressed to Mahwasane Senior Primary, where I completed my elementary education. And then enrolled at Kweba Commercial High School, studied accounting, and when I matriculated, I went to the University of Venda, and that's where I completed my becoming accounting degree. So, growing up, I was one of those people who had a level of self-awareness, right? At the time, I did not know that that's what it was. It's only now that I look back in retrospect that I realize, girl, had always got it. So there is this narrative that is recounted in my house. They say that when I was registered to start my first grade, I could not stop telling the teachers stories about how I could write my names and other stories, so that they asked me the question, do you go to crash? And the girl had no idea what a crash was. As a matter of fact, I'd never been to one before. But this word rhymed the same as church, the only English word that I was familiar with at the time. So I answered and I said, well, I used to go to ZCC, but this my sister took me to her church. I cracked everyone up, and that's how I got to be popular with the teachers. I was a girl who ran her mouth. So also there is, I must have been 9 or 10 when I discovered my love for numbers. All I wanted to do was sum and subtract numbers, right? Even on the ground, on the surface. And by the time I was in grade 7, I knew that I had no interest in science, I had no interest in biology, and I was just not good in technical drawing. So when my friends were going different directions, I knew that I had to part ways with them, because your girl simply wanted to count numbers and to talk. So why conversations? Because girl loves to talk. Listen, that's part of the reason, yes. But conversations, because I did not want to have your book launch, right? Yep, I did say book launch. What I did not tell you is that I'm an author. So I wrote this book, powerful book, and I titled it The Beauty in My Shame, Works of His Grace. So if you don't have a copy of this book, child, what are you waiting for? Get your copy. This book is really changing people's life, literally. The kind of responses that I'm getting, guys, the feedback that I am getting from people who have engaged with the book is overwhelming. So if you don't have a copy, get your own copy. So I was saying conversations, because I did not want to have your traditional book launch. Instead, I wanted to create this kind of environment, a platform like this where we can come together and have engagements, have conversations, have discussions, and even discuss some of the topics that I actually covered in the book. So the thing with me, guys, is that I believe so much in the power of conversations. I believe more so in the power of testimonies, because my own life was changed as a result of someone sharing their testimony. As a child growing up, I was not one to watch your cartoons, right? So I grew up watching Dr. Phil and the Oprah Winfrey Show. So I remember one time I was watching her show and she gave an account of how she was abused as a child growing up. And I remember watching and listening and thinking to myself, if the Oprah Winfrey, the woman that I've grown to love and admire so much, has gone through all this, which she says she's been through, and still came out of it victorious, and still leave her mark on earth, surely I too can overcome. Surely I can find my voice again. Surely I can still become everything that I aspired to become as a child growing up. And so what her testimony did for me is that it actually gave me hope. It gave me hope for the future, right? At the time, my life was pretty much shattered. My dreams were shattered. I could not see the light. I could not see how I could overcome the shame, the guilt, the fear, the trauma, all these things that were really aimed at keeping me bound and shut me up. So when she gave her testimony, I was liberated, one, and I began to have hope for my own future, that my circumstances, my situation can also change for the better. So that's why we're here. That's why this podcast. I want to create a platform that we can come as authentic as we can be, share our journey, our testimonies. Because here's the thing, guys. When you look at people, before they tell you where they've been, you really can't tell, right? It's when they gather the courage to tell you their journey that you begin to realize, listen, we are all the same, and we're struggling from the same things. Your story may not be the same as my story, but the baggages that we have collected along the way. And it's when they begin to share how they've released those baggages and took another bag different from the baggages. They're all bagged, but different is this one is actually a baggage. You've carried it for so long. It's now overwhelming. It's now exhausting. And you take a different bag, a bag full of lessons learned, a bag full of experiences that nothing else would have taught and taught as good as those experiences have actually taught you. I'll share with you this testimony, right? And I did not share this in the book, it's just coming to me now. When I'd completed my degree in accounting, I pictured myself having an office and having a laptop and a phone and some of the fringe benefits that I learned off in school, right? That's how I pictured my life. And when I completed my degree and I moved to Joburg, staying with my aunt there, my brother came back home and he said to me, well, I got a job for you. And I was like, you got a job? And he said, yes. So I remember the next morning I got myself ready, right? I was getting ready to go to this work that my brother has got for me. And I remember he said to me, well, you're not going to need all of those stuff. Because I was packing my CV, my qualifications, make sure everything is intact. And I was like, no, you're not going to need none of that. You're just going to need your ID book. And I was like, so they don't care for my qualifications, the experience that I have. And then he was like, no, none of that, right? So I remember getting to this firm and they gave me uniform, boots, and wetsuits, right? And they said, change to this. They showed me a spot that I was going to be responsible for. So the job that my brother was referring to was a cleaner's job. So I was a cleaner, a graduate cleaner. I could not believe that's actually the job that I was going to hold. And going through that experience, there was no way that I could have known that there are lessons in that experience that I will later on have to go back to and refer to. There was no way, as I was going through that experience, that I would have known that there are lessons that I would later on need in my journey of life. That even that experience was preparation for the person that I will later on become. It was a life's detour, right? It's not what I pictured my life to be. I did not. When I graduated, I did not think of myself as Asri the cleaner. It has always been Asri the accountant, right? But the lessons there that I learned, that nothing else has been able to teach me as good as that experience have taught me. I'll give you examples. When I look at people now, I don't look at people through the lenses of what they have acquired in life or their qualifications or their positions. When I look at people, I realize that people are actually people and they are of value regardless. And when I meet a cleaner or a security guard or a taxi driver, I don't immediately think that they're there or they're holding those positions because they're less educated than I am. Because I know that in life, you can be qualified, you can be skilled, you can have the experience, you can have the training, but still not get the breakthrough that you want to have or that you at least deserve to have. So the way in which I engage with people now is completely different as a result of that detour that I've had to take in life. When you begin to look at life in that way, from this view, to say that even though you're taking some detours, they're not your destination, that instead of carrying all the trauma and all the shame, listen, I don't think I ever told, at the time, I don't know, I think I only told one of my friends that I had a position as a cleaner, because it was a shameful thing, right? How can you graduate and clean? It's one of those things that when you begin to look at your life from that view, from that angle, to say whatever you're going through right now, if anything, there are lessons there that can be learned. And maybe it's necessary for the person that you will later on become. There is this quote, and I'm finishing with this. There is this quote, right? It's Joyce Meyer who said this. She said, "We only live life forward, but we only understand it backwards." So I don't care how your traumatic experiences have been, but it's after some time that you look back and realize that, shucks, those things serve a purpose in my life that helped mold the person that I am today. And you look at those things with gratefulness, with appreciation for everything that you've been through in life, because it was not a waste. It had a significance and it serves you. So let me not overwhelm you with all of me. We are yet going to have these conversations. So tell your friends, tell your mama, tell your papa, invite your cats and your dogs. Tell them Asri is on. We're doing this thing. Noma Kanjan. You know the song? The first song. Noma Kanjani. Noma Kanjani. Listen, I can't sing to save my life, but Noma Kanjani, we are doing this thing. So subscribe, like, share, and engage, right? So hit me up on my DMs. Listen, let's have these conversations. And I'm here, you're here, and we're not leaving until this thing is done. Because my desire, my heart's cry is to see you become the best version that you created to be. Is to see you live out the best the highest version of yourself. So brace yourself, touch, let's go.